So, what are the polls saying about what happened with the former president? What will happen? Would Trump supporters change their support? I've got a lot of opinions on this. A lot of people talking about this weekend, starting with Jonathan Karl, ABC. Would Trump supporters change their support if he was found guilty? This goes back a little ways.
The overwhelming majority of Trump supporters have said no, but there have been, on average, in polls, including an ABC News poll just a month ago, 20% of voters who say they would support Donald Trump, who would say that they would at least reconsider their support for Donald Trump if he were to be convicted for a felony. If that holds, that could be devastating to his presidential campaign.
So that was on May 30th. What happened on May 31st?
There are Trump voters who have said that a verdict in this matter would make a big difference. A couple of weeks ago, our poll saw 80% of Trump's supporters say they would continue to support him no matter what. But that's another 20% total that would either reconsider or withdraw their support based on a conviction. That's 1 in 5 Trump voters, which is an enormous number in an election that is expected to be as close as this one.
All right, so is the verdict damaging his chances of winning the election? This is from yesterday, Rick Klein, ABC.
Half the country thinks it was the verdict was right, and almost half thinks he should drop out. Tells you something about the political damage or the potential damage that Trump faces. Most Republicans are backing Trump, but it was striking to me in this poll to see about 1 in 6, 16% of Republicans say that this verdict was correct and say he should drop out. Those are big, big numbers.
So there is a difference. Let's be honest. There is a difference. More than half of Democrats, 54% that have been polled, believe that Joe Biden should drop out of the race. Does that mean that those 54% of Democrat voters are not going to vote for him in a matchup against Donald Trump? The answer is absolutely not. Democrats hate Donald Trump as much as Republicans hate Joe Biden. Maybe not hate them personally, but the idea of them being president for another 4 years. So I don't know the answer to this question, but the questions are great questions. How much of this will actually hurt? We've been hearing for a long time the majority of Americans want another option. They don't want either of these candidates to be the candidates. We've been hearing this for months. Well, you've got RFK Jr., who is doing better in the polls. He is the most recent third-party candidate that has any kind of legs whatsoever in his campaign. You have to go back to Ross Perot, to find another candidate that had this kind of following. But he's not getting numbers that rival either of these two candidates. So for the people that continue to say in polling, yeah, I wish that Trump wasn't the Republican candidate, and I wish that Biden wasn't, I don't want either one, you've got a third option, and he's not doing very well, especially when you hear the number of people that continue to say this. So when you hear people say he should drop out of the race, there's a lot of Republicans that feel that way. There are a lot of people that think that it would be a walkover. And this is what's interesting. You talk to Republicans and they say this would be a walkover for a Republican candidate that wasn't Donald Trump. If it had been another Republican candidate right now, this would be an astounding walkover, slam dunk victory for Republicans. And you're hearing the same thing from Democrats. If this wasn't Joe Biden, if this wasn't this president with this 4 years of the presidency, with all of the questions about his ability to do another 4 years, this wouldn't even be a competition. Donald Trump would be so far behind in polls, it would be over with. And yet, when you look at the fact that they're staying in the race, their base understands, as much as we don't think that this is the person to represent us best, it's much better than the alternative on the other side of the aisle. So then you go to independent voters, because independent voters that are looking at this and saying, all right, I'm with you. I don't like either person, but I've got to make a choice. And I'm not a diehard Trump fan. I'm not a diehard Biden fan. I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Republican or Democrat. So I've got to make a decision on who I think is best. 49% of independent voters think that Trump should drop out of the race post-guilty verdict. The Morning Consult poll conducted on Friday offers some of the first insights into what this says. 54% of registered voters strongly or somewhat approve of the guilty verdict, compared to 34% who strongly or somewhat disapprove. 49% of independents and 15% of Republicans say Trump should end his campaign because of the conviction. They found the race effectively tied nationally 1-1 with Biden at 45 and Trump at 44. So once again, how you ask the question, because it isn't just about, are you going to vote for him? It's, should he drop out? There are a lot of people that are saying, yeah, he probably should drop out. But then given the option, when you have to put pen to paper and make your choice, how many of them will vote for Biden? Or how many of them will leave it blank? Or how many of them will vote for RFK Jr.? That remains to be seen. When you look at the numbers and how much money, millions and millions of dollars, have been donated to the Trump campaign, if you think for a minute that's not going to help him, it's absolutely going to help him. If you look at the ads that are being run, and this is part of the way politics in America works, look at how the campaigns are being run. When you look at the Biden ads, there might be some ads out there that are talking about all the great things that America has done in the last 3.5 years. But for the most part, what you are seeing is how horrible Trump is. From drinking, one of the ads was from drinking bleach to all these other things about everything was just about how horrible Trump was. We thought Trump was out of control before. What will happen if he gets another 4 years? So it's anti-Trump. And I imagine you're going to see the same thing from the Trump campaign about the last 3.5 years of a Biden administration. I don't know the answers to what the voters are actually going to do when the questions turn from, should Donald Trump drop out of the race? How many people are actually going to say, I will no longer consider voting for him because he's been convicted? That's the question we need to see answers to. I will no longer support him. I may not vote for Biden. We may see RFK's numbers go up. We may hear more people say, I'm just not going to get involved. And I'm anxious to see how it plays out.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.